Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the UnApoloJew podcast. This is Rabbi Orel David, and we're going to talk today about Lebanon. Lebanon, the land of the great mountains and trees, the land of beauty. We're going to talk about that today, and we're going to start with a song. And we're going to start with the Lebanese national anthem. We're going to listen to it, and I'm gonna start talking about what is the Jewish solution to the land of Lebanon. Is it belong to the Jews? Is it belong to the Arabs? What are those poor people gonna do with that decrepit land? And what is the real solution? Because we know they're destroying that land. So here we go. We're just gonna listen to the song, and we're gonna start our podcast today. Thank you for listening. So Lebanon was established in 1920, basically because of the Sykes-Picot Agreement between France and England, and they divided the Ottoman Empire during their victorious campaign against the Ottoman Empire. They divided the Middle East. Lebanon, which was a Christian country, the only Christian country in the Middle East, was given some kind of independence during the French Mandate over Lebanon. It was basically Lebanon and Syria was created, and the same conference, right, the San Remo conference, also gave the land of Israel from the Mediterranean to the Jews, from the Mediterranean to the Euphrates. So we see that Lebanon is something that was established by Western powers to create some kind of a safe haven to Christians, basically because of France, right? France wanted to protect the Maroons, which were the Catholics or some kind of an ancient Catholic religion that live in the Middle East, and especially in Lebanon. They wanted to create some kind of independent protectorate to them in a form of a country. That's why all the presidents of Lebanon are always Christians. It's the only country in the Middle East that has a Christian for president, and that's how Lebanon was created. It was created as a safe haven for Christians under the French mandate. The Jews got Israel, which was under the British mandate, and this is how it started. But really, when you think about the Middle East, right, especially that northern area, once the Ottoman Empire was dissolved, for example, the Ottomans, when they conquered that area, right, that northern part of the land of Israel, they didn't create any settlements there. They just overruled over the different ethnicities that live together, right, like the Druze, the Jews, the Christians, the Shiites and the Sunnis. But the Turks, they were some kind of a different entity, right? The Ottomans, they're different. They're not Arabs, they're Turks. They're not from that area. They just controlled it, right? They controlled it like the British controlled Israel. They're not British, are Anglo-Saxons. They're not from the Middle East. They're not Jews. What are they doing there? Well, they just control, right? And that's all they really do. So once the countries were divided during the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the French and the British tried to create segregated zones for different ethnic groups. The Lebanon was to be the Christian zone. Israel was to be the Jewish zone. The Transjordan area, which is Jordan today, was for the Hashemite tribe to help fight, for Churchill and Lawrence of Arabia or whatever, and the British felt compelled. So they stole a piece of the land of Israel and they gave it to them. And really, when we read the Bible, we see that Lebanon is actually the northern territory of the biblical land of Israel. As it says in the Torah, from the desert and the Lebanon, from the river Euphrates to the Great Sea, you will have a border. So Lebanon is the north, the desert is the south, the Euphrates is the east, and the Mediterranean is the west. Those are the borders of the land of Israel, and we see later on that during the conquerors and basically mentioning of the borders of Israel, and it says that the border of the north will be. So the translation of Jonathan for the Tanakh says Omnus. The mountains of Omnus is the northern border of Israel. And we know there is a place called the mountains of Amnus or Omnus between the latitude of 36 degrees and 37 degrees between the Syrian-Turkish border. And that is the most northern opinion of the border of the land of Israel. So we see that actually that entire piece of land belonged to the Jewish people under the covenant of God, and that entire area actually belongs also to the tribe of Naphtali, and also it belongs to the tribe of Zevulun, as it says, Zevulun lechof yamim ishkon, Zevulun will dwell on the beaches, and Veyarketo al Tzidon, and his banks will be in Tzidon. So Tzidon, it's a city in the middle of Lebanon, a little south of Beirut. But yeah, the Jewish land, the tribal divisions went all the way up all the way over there. And it says like this also, that the tribe of Asher used to dwell on the banks of Tzidon, or not on the ocean side, but mainly on the internal land side, and also in Tzor. Tzor is another city in Lebanon, south to Tzidon, closer to Israel today. And it's a very, very blessed land. The land of Asher, it says, Vetovel b'shemen reglo, and he dipped his feet in oil. This is the part of Asher, that it was so rich with olive oil. Imagine today it will be oil, right? Just regular crude oil. Back then olive oil was the currency, was the great commodity of the time. And Asher used to dip his feet in olive oil because it was so rich, that land, those trees that grow over there on those mountains, with that weather, with that terrain. Everything is good over there. Everything is basically Um, it's a good land, it's beautiful, has a nice terrain, it's not too rugged, the weather is good, it has a beach, it has nice mountains that people can dwell on. It's a very, very beautiful land. It's not like mainland Israel, which is some sort of a high desert area that is extremely dry and then it's very hot in summer and cool in winter. It's actually a very, very nice, um, like the Galilee of Israel. It's a very nice terrain. It has valleys, it has rivers and creeks and ponds and all kind of stuff, and got trees that grow there, and it's just a very good area. And really, what is the future of Lebanon in the Jewish perspective? So, Lebanon, it's basically a mixed match of different nationalities that some Europeans about 100 years ago exactly decided that, oh, we're gonna put them all together and we're gonna make happy, right? We're gonna just make sure they're gonna be okay with each other, and that's really not what happened. Lebanon is a extremely divided ethnic um, country. It's not like Syria and it's not like Iraq and it's not like those other places when, yeah, there is ethnic differences. Like if you go to Iraq, yeah, there is Shiites and Sunnis, but they're Arabs. If you go to Syria, yes, there are Sunnis and there are Shiites and there are the Alawims and there are the Druze, but Syria also have a lot of desert that is mainly empty. So in times of duress, you just go somewhere else or something. Lebanon is small, so Lebanon you can have one mountain can be Druze, and then the other mountain will be Shiites, and then the other mountain will be Maroons, and then the other mountain will be Sunni Arabs, and then in the Wadi you'll have somebody else living there, and it's such a mixed multitude of all kind of um, just different people that for thousands of years do not get along with each other. But because it's such a small land and such heavy mountain terrain, it's easy to defend. So people been living there, except from some cases that you will see. Some of the other tribes, some of the other nationalities have lost a grasp of the land. For example, there is a big village that is called Maroun Aras, which used to be a whole the Lebanese Christians used to live there, as we learned from the name Maroon, right? Those are the Maroons, Maroun Aras, and now it's a completely Shiite Hezbollah terrain. So when we look at a country like Lebanon and we see there are people calling themselves Palestinians living there, which are Sunni Arabs, and we see the Shiite Arabs, which is Hezbollah, and we see the Druze, that Samir Qatar, which was a horrible killer that came to Israel as an emissary of Hezbollah, as a terrorist of Hezbollah, and came and killed 6-month-old baby in front of our parents, and killed the parents and killed another child. It was just a horrible human being, and thank God Israel put a bomb in his car seat and sent them to his place in hell. And he was a Druze, right? He was a Druze fighting with the Shiite Arabs in Lebanon. So we see all these people together, and this kind of mixed mixed multitude of people. Who are they? What are they doing together? And what are they doing together? They do nothing, right? Lebanon, people say, used to be the Paris of the Middle East, and what is it today? It's a crap hole. It's better to go to a public toilet in bus station than to go to Lebanon. You have a civil war going on there. You have two armies, right? There is the Lebanese army and there is Hezbollah that basically controls the entire southern border of Lebanon. The entire southern area of Lebanon belongs to Hezbollah, and those are all Shiite Arabs. There is a Christian prime minister, president, but so what? You know, the last one, Hariri, that Hezbollah didn't like, they just blew him up. They can do the same to Michel Aoun, which is the prime minister, the president of Lebanon today. But who is he? Like, what is the resources of Lebanon? Lebanon doesn't make anything. Lebanon doesn't produce anything. There is no universities in Lebanon. There is no hospitals in Lebanon. There is no... I mean, there is hospitals. Obviously, there is a university or whatever somewhere, but they don't produce anything. Like, there's no high-tech industry. There is no industry, right? At least you go to certain parts in the Middle East, and yeah, the people are poor and there is nothing there, but at least they do something. Lebanon, they do nothing. There is nothing there because they're so ethnically divided that they can't do anything. Right? If you're Druze, you do not go and do trade with a Shiite. You do not go and do trade with a Sunni. You do not go and do trade with the Christians, and vice versa, right? You don't. If you're Christian, you do not go and do trade with the Druze. You do not go and do trade with a Shiite. You do not go and do trade with a Sunni, and so forth and so forth and so on and so on. So, this country, which is really not a country because they don't function as a country, right? A country is supposed to unite us under one flag, one authority, one government. They're not doing that. When they have a problem, they don't call the police, they call the neighbor with the bigger gun to go and solve the problems that they have. And that's really the mentality in a lot of places in the Middle East, but in Lebanon is the most predominant because the country is such a mess. But what do we care, right? What do the Jews care? Well, first of all, it belongs to us, right? Lebanon belongs to the Jewish people. It's part of the land of Israel. The tribes that are living there, I would say that a lot of them, and if they're not Arabs, might actually be Jewish tribes. There is evidence to that. There is a lot of different tribes in the Middle East that walk around and have similar to Jewish traditions. And maybe today they occupy a different religion, but in one point of history they were Jews, and they sit on a land that we used to occupy and belongs to us. And another important thing, even if we didn't occupy it today, in the modern time, there is a subject that people really need to know. The Baron Rothschild, God rest his soul, right? I would like to say the Holy Baron Rothschild. One of the things that he did was to buy ginormous pieces of land for a company called Pika. And I grew up in Israel on a street called Pika. And Pika was a company owned by the Baron Rothschild, financed from his money, and that company used to buy a ton of land from the Ottomans because, let's face it, the Turks just like money, and they just sold huge pieces of land all the way from Horan, which is in Syria, to what we know today is Beirut. So all that area from Beirut to Horan, all that southern area of whatever was the border of Turkey, Syria, or that little area over there, all the way to Nahariya today, to the Golan Heights, the entire Galilee. All of this area was bought from gold coins, was paid to the Ottomans to give that land eventually to the state of Israel. The company called Pika that owned that land that was purchased from the Baron Rothschild money, disassembled in I think around 1950, and basically gave all their possessions to the land of Israel. And the land of Israel, which is the country of Israel, they own, can you hear me? They own the entire area of southern Lebanon, anything Beirut South, anything Damascus south, the I would say the Golan Heights, all the area that leads to the Galilee, that's basically hundreds of thousands of acres that was bought by money from the Baron Rothschild and the company called Pika. And I'm gonna do a video one time, not a video, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do a podcast one time. I'm gonna talk about the Ika, Pika, and Hayes, and those three companies and what they played and the parts that they played in the establishment of the modern day Israel. But really, that area is actually land that is owned by the Israeli government. Like Sykes-Picot and those agreements, those are all nonsense. They have no legal authority. This entire area belongs to us, and we need to get it back. So now the question is, how do we get it back? And what do we do with all the people that are over there right now? So let's just face the fact. One, they don't want to be there, right? The people of Lebanon, they're immigrating enormously. And on the other hand, Israel is expanding exponentially. So we're going to have in a few years, let's say maybe 10, 15, 20 years, a giant piece of land in the north parts of Israel that the Jews, the Israelis, going to need, and the Arabs going to abandon. Why are they going to abandon it? Because they are psychos. The ethnic fighting that is constantly going on over there, where they're just killing each other in the most horrible, inhumane ways, makes them go to the one promised land that they have, which is Europe. They just love Europe. Especially the Lebanese people, they love Europe. They go there because they feel like they belong to the European nations. As I said, Lebanon is supposed to be a Christian country, which again is a mistake because it's part of the original Jewish homeland. So what are we going to do? So eventually the Jewish population in Israel going to grow. Like I said, it's already going exponentially. We're nearing 10 million people in Israel, and we're going to need a place to expand. We're going to have a beautiful place in the north parts of Israel that already belongs to us under international law. So Lebanon is, like I said, bought with gold, with money by the Baron Rothschild, the Holy Baron Rothschild. He bought it and gave it, or his company basically gave it to the government of Israel in the 50s. So what are we going to do with the people? One, there is a simple truth that Jews are good people. You can ask any Arab that had to come to Israel and to be basically to live in Israel, to live among Jews, will tell you that Jews are amazing people. You can ask any Arab that lived with Jews in Arab lands. He will tell you the Jews are good people. And what is that important? Because every time a conqueror came to one of those lands, right, one of the Arab lands, one of the lands in the Mediterranean, he basically devoured the population that was there. So we will give them a trade-off. The Jewish people, with the leadership of the Israeli government, will say a simple thing. We will tell them the following. 1, we will not kill you. 2, we will not rape your daughters. 3, we will not burn your house down. 4, we will not make your sons fight each other. And 5, all you need to do is wake up in the morning and salute to an Israeli flag and sing the Israeli national anthem. We will not interfere in your internal problems, but when your village is running out of water and you need a water pipe, we will provide one for you. You will pay taxes. You will call the police when you have a problem. We will have an autonomous government in your villages, but we will have some sort of a federal government, maybe in Beirut, maybe in Tzor, maybe in Sidon, one of those areas, where if you got a major issue, you can come over and talk to us. You will be loyal, and we will protect you. Your daughters will not have to be raped on the wedding nights by the village warlord. Your husbands will not get their genitals cut off by the village warlord. There will be no warlords. There will be law and order. You can practice your religion. You need to be loyal. That's basically our trade-off to the people that will be left in Lebanon, if there will be any people living in Lebanon in the next 10-15 years. And that's the solution. That's really the only solution to the countries that are close to the Middle East, to Israel. It will happen eventually. I mean, Syria will not be able to maintain control of Lebanon. Hezbollah will not be able to control the northern areas. The Christians don't like it there anyway. It's a miserable place. They are so poor and they are so mismanaged that there are mountains of trash in the streets. They can't even take care of fires that are bursting in the middle of the cities. They're on a brink of a civil war. They're probably not going to have a full-blown civil war yet because everybody is tired from the Syrian civil war, but it can happen. And why should it happen? It's a beautiful land. It's a good land. The people there, they just need leadership. They just need somebody to talk to, somebody to come with their problems, and we will help them solve their problems. Believe me, when the Jews gonna come to Lebanon and they're gonna liberate Lebanon from the Arab rule and will institute a Jewish rule over there, we will not make them do anything besides have them be loyal to us, and that's it. They will practice their holidays, they will practice their religion. If they want to eat halal, they can eat halal. If they want to eat whatever they want to eat, they can eat whatever they want to eat. We're not going to tell them what to do. We're not going to tell them where to marry. We're not going to tell them who they need to salute beside the Israeli flag. That's all they need to do. If they want to join the Israeli military, like the Druze do in Israel, like some of the Bedouins do in Israel, that's okay. That's something to talk about. But really, what is the alternative? Another Lebanese civil war that will kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions, the same as in Syria. There's already over 1 million people dead, and there is no ending in the near future. What is the solution? What do the Lebanese people want? They're not stupid. They know exactly what is going on in their country. And we Jews need to take responsibility and do as God commanded us and take our land back. That land happened to be Lebanon. And one of the reasons I played the national anthem in the beginning is for people to understand that Lebanon in its creation was created to be a Western state, a state with a Western civilization. I think in Lebanon it might be the only Arab country that in their national anthem there is no mentioning of the word God. I mean, we can look it up, but the fact that a country that is so divided over ethnicities and religions, the entire national anthem doesn't talk about God, but talks about some kind of a fake unity for the motherland and the flag and whatever. It's all a bunch of nonsense, because the Lebanese people never fought together. They only fought each other. And even when Israel controlled the southern areas of Lebanon, and even when Israel went all the way up to Beirut in 1982, the different factions really fought each other more than they fought the Israelis. And the biggest evidence to that will be the massacre that happened in Sabra and Shatila. Israel was playing for it, but really it was the Christians that massacred Sunni Arabs in those camps. It was nothing to do with Jews. Israel didn't do anything, and during the time that we controlled southern Lebanon, I think the people there had a pretty good time, except those hostile villages that were disruptive to the everyday life of the Israeli military over there and the protection of the northern Israeli territory. They were fine. They were so fine that they created their own military. It's called the Tzadal, the Southern Lebanese Army, and it was an integral part of the Israeli army. So those people are really, we actually made it a proof, right? That if you fight with us, if you help us, if you be loyal to us, we will protect you. We will make sure, like I said, that nobody's gonna cut off your hands or dip your feet in acid. Nobody's gonna kill your babies like Hezbollah is doing. Nobody's gonna rape your daughter the day she's about to get married, and your son-in-law will kill himself from embarrassment because he can't do anything, and the warlord or the Hezbollah chieftain or whatever it is that come in to the wedding and demands his first night with your daughter, you can't do anything about it, and he just have to do it. And we will not do it. Jews not gonna do it. In the entire history of Israeli-Arab relations, there was not even one account of a Jew raping an Arab woman. And you can fact check me on that. That never happened. That a Jew raped an Arab woman. It happened the opposite way. We know it happens a lot. And the Arabs do rape women, Israeli women. They rape their own women. But Jews never raped an Arab woman. Jews will not mutilate people. We do not electrocute people's genitals until they become dark as charcoal. We just do not do that. And those barbarians that live in the Lebanon mountains today, again, they're not from that area. They immigrated from Saudi Arabia to the mountains of Lebanon, again, belong to us. Those barbarian savages that are living there right now, they are not the alternative. We are the alternative. We are the only solution to those people. Eventually, we will do the same to Syria. Syria is just a bigger piece of land, which is a lot of desert, and there is not a lot to do over there. But, again, belongs to the Jews, was purchased with hardcore gold money by the Baron Rothschild from the Ottoman Empire, then given to the state of Israel, belong to us. I don't believe that America will ever let go of California. I don't believe that the United States will ever let go of Alaska. Those are places that were bought. Louisiana was bought. I don't think that America will ever give it back to France. And the same should be for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. It's a land that belongs to us. We bought it. Even if the Baron Rothschild and his company bought it, they still gave it to Israel, to the land of Israel, to the people of Israel, through the government, and we should have it. Like, we shouldn't let those barbarians that live there, that commit all the atrocities you can even imagine. Like, some of the things, if I'll repeat it in this cast, I won't be able to post it in certain platforms. But just the stuff that these savages are doing to each other, killing, murdering, raping, mutilating, all these horrible, horrible, horrible things. And then they're doing it because the land does not belong to them. When there is a fire in a neighborhood in Beirut, even the people from the other neighborhood don't even go and help, turn it off, because they do not care. It's not their land. If it's not your land, you don't care how it looks. You don't care if it burns to the ground, it's not your land. And the biggest evidence to that will be the giant immigration wave that leaves Lebanon today. And those people, if it was their land, they would take care of their land. But they don't. They all are corrupt. And they all care about money, and they care about their own immediate needs. And like I said, Lebanon wasn't like that. Lebanon used to be the Paris of the Middle East. They had casinos, they had a beautiful hotels, they have a freaking Riviera. Did you know that? Lebanon has a Riviera, and they decided to throw it all to the garbage can of history and become an ethnically divided, torn up war zone. And we see the results today. Lebanon is nothing more than like Haiti, those kind of places, and there is no future there. But the only solution, and there is none other than the Jews, the people of Israel, and the Israeli government, is to basically give them an alternative and say, hey, we will basically annex the entire country of Lebanon. We will take it. You will salute to us, and in exchange, we will protect you. And that's all we gotta do. If you ask all the Palestinians or the people who call themselves Palestinians in Israel, they are much better off living under Israel than under the Palestinians, they're under any Arab regime. And even the most militant and the most, loud-mouthed, nonsense talker, Arab, Israeli, in the parliament, in the news, wherever they are, if you ask them today, they are like, oh, we want Palestine. Okay, no problem. How about you return your Israeli ID and go move to Palestine next door, right? How about you leave Jerusalem and go live in Ramallah, right? It's only 7-minute drive. It's not even that far of a distance. And they will tell you, no. And even when Israel made talks about annexing Judea and Samaria, or certain areas in Judea and Samaria, and then seceding from other areas in Judea and Samaria, and basically returning those areas to the Palestinian Authority ruling, a lot of those Arabs started crying in the street like little girls with ponytails, and basically saying, we do not want Israel to live. And we know that. Jews know that. Israelis know that. They know that the Arabs are better off under Israel than any other country in the world, because we treat them well. We treat everybody well. We just Jews are like that. We are a merciful people. We are a smart people. We take care of people that we are overpowering on, and the Arabs that live in the land of Israel, they know that. They're not grateful, which is a big problem, and it's up to the government of Israel to fix it if they want to, but they don't want to, so that's another issue. But that's the solution for Lebanon. The simple solution is to go to those tribes, to those people, and tell them, hey, we are here. We will protect you. We will annex you. We will give you the freedoms that you want. You might not be able to run for parliament. You might not be able to have certain voting rights, the same, I guess, as people from Puerto Rico or Guam or other places that are American territories, when you are like subjects but not full-blown citizens, even though you're born on American land. The same thing will be with those people in Lebanon, and those people probably will in Syria, when we're going to conquer Syria, because eventually we're going to do that, because there is no solution. You have to understand, there is no solution. The other solution is to just let those people suffer, let those babies die, let those women get raped. There is no solution. The only solution is for Israel, right, to just take it all and protect the people. Obviously, that will be the exchange, and they will live happily ever after under the Israeli regime. They will, like I said, salute the flag, will have freedoms, certain freedoms, will have a lot more rights that they have today, and they will be happy. And you know what? Eventually they will be thankful. And I know that there is a lot of animosities between Jews and Arabs and everything, but when you really ask a lot of the Palestinians that are under Israeli control, right? That are under Israeli control, they will tell you that they are extremely grateful of how Israel is treating them, especially when they see what happened in places next door, like in Jordan, like in Syria, like in Lebanon, like in Egypt, like in Iraq. They know. They're not stupid. They know exactly what's going on in other Arab countries. They know what's going on in Dubai. They know what's going on in Bahrain. They know what's going on in Qatar, in Kuwait. They know what's going on exactly in Saudi Arabia, and it's not pleasant. Those places are not nice. Everybody likes Dubai and the hotels and the resorts and the whatever, but it's not a place to live. It's 1 million people and they got 9 million slaves that are living there. This is a ridiculous place, and I understand, Israel want to make peace with everybody because we are some kind of a battered wife syndrome that we want to make peace with everybody in the world, but we don't need to. We can just say, hey, if you want economic relationship, we can do that, and we will do that. Like, that's the only solution to Lebanon. And Lebanon will be annexed to the land of Israel. We will protect the different tribes. We will give them municipal rights. Basically, the mayor of that village, of that township, of that county will be whoever the people of that area choose to have. It will be obviously ethnically divided because this is how the Middle East work. It has to work like that. Otherwise, there will be bloodshed and rivers of blood will be flowing from the mountains of Lebanon as it flowing today. And that's the only solution. And you know what? They will be extremely happy and they will be extremely grateful because we are their solution. We are good. The Jews are good. We are good people. We protect them. That place belongs to us from God. It's written in the Bible. It's written in many other places. This place belongs to us, and the only solution is for us to take it. So I would like to end this podcast with another song from Nawa Karam. Nawa Karam is the representation of what we call secular Lebanon, or basically the Lebanese people. She's a Christian, she's a modern person, and more than that, she's like their Madonna, or I don't know, somebody's famous. I'm not well versed in pop culture, but anyway. So she is, just to imagine that, she's a Christian, right? She's extremely secular, and she wrote a song in 2006 when Israel went to war with Lebanon, basically with Hezbollah, not really with Lebanon. And the song is El Watan, or the same as like the national anthem, which has the words El Watan, which is Kulanu Kul ala el watan, like all of us for the homeland. So she wrote the song The Homeland, or something like The Homeland Gonna Stay, or something like that. And again, a Christian, right? Just to kind of give you a background of who she is, in 2011, right? 11, she wrote a song for Bashar al-Assad, which basically massacred by today almost 1 million people. A lot of them are also Christians, right? Because he just went through everything, right? Everybody wasn't Shiite. He just gassed and killed and mutilated. And so she wrote a song, Our Leader Bashar, right? Bashar el-Qaid. And she wrote that. So that's the kind of person she is. That's the kind of person the Lebanese are, right? It's all about the homeland because they got nothing else that unite them. So they're trying to find a common ground. The same as the composers, the Western composers that wrote the national anthem, and they didn't use the word God because everybody has a different God over there, but they did use the word, the homeland, El Watan. So we will end this podcast with the song by Nawa Karam, the Christian who sings for the Shiites in southern Lebanon, who are fighting Israel. And when we will conquer Lebanon and liberate them from the Arab regimes that are overwhelmingly killing and mutilating them, we will make them listen to that song, and we will tell them, don't worry, your homeland is here to stay. We just will have a different flag today. That was all from Rabbi Orel David in the UnApoloJew podcast. I hope you like it. Please subscribe, comment. You can listen to this podcast in almost every podcast platform. And leave a comment or send questions, anything you want. And God bless us all. And God bless everybody. Thank you. And Shana Tova. And Khatima Tova.
يا منموت كلنا وبينتهي الوطن، يا منكون رجال وبيبقى الوطن، يا منموت كلنا وبينتهي الوطن، يا منكون رجال وبيبقى الوطن، منموت منعيش أحرار، يا منكون رجال أبطال أحرار وبيبقى الوطن. سبقونا الأبطال وقالوا أرض ما بتنطال، والوطن بيكبر برجاله، الوقت بدها رجال. سبقونا الأبطال وقالوا أرض ما بتنطال، والوطن بيكبر برجاله، الوقت بدها رجال.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان سلاحوا.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان سلاحه.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان، وطن الإيمان، وطن الإيمان سلاحه.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان سلاحه.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان سلاحه.
كل اللي راحوا ما راحوا، وطن الإيمان سلاحه.
مهما الخوف مد جناحه، مهما الخوف مد جناحه، رح يبقى الوطن،
رح يبقى الوطن.
يا منموت كلنا وبينتهي الوطن،
يا منكون رجال وبيبقى الوطن،
يا منموت كلنا وبينتهي الوطن،
يا منكون رجال وبيبقى الوطن.
منموت منعيش
أحرار، يا منكون رجال أبطال أحرار وبيبقى الوطن.